The Secretary General of the ODM party joins me now. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne.
I mean, yeah, it would be. We were going to have this a different conversation tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, but being in ODM and being, the Secretary General of that party, talk to us about your thoughts around the events that have taken place tonight.
First of all, I have to join the rest of the country in sending my condolences, both on my own behalf and on behalf of the ODM fraternity. For the loss of this icon of multi-party democracy and the struggle for the second liberation in our country. The fact of the matter is that some of us were introduced to Kenneth Matiba when we were quite young. By the time the '92 election was coming about, I was only 10 years old. But I do remember the effort itself, because we had grown up to until that particular point to believe that there really was no other way in terms of governance of the country other than through the Baba and Mama party of KANU at that particular point. And it took people of great courage to be able to stand up and say that there was another way that we could do or manage our affairs as a country. And you could see that people paid a terrible price. I mean, Kenneth Matiba, people might eulogize him now, but some of us actually see this as a release, because he has had a very, very difficult life after the detention in 1990-91. He suffered a stroke when he was in detention, and many accounts, including the accounts of his doctors, say that the situation could have been saved had he been given medical attention at that particular point. From then on, and to be able to even carry on into the '92 election and to perform as well as he did. Many of us at that particular point, I remember listening to the radio in '92, and everybody believed Matiba had won that election. How he was announced or came out second is a matter of it's another long story.
That's right.
For us, and I want to join with what my senior Honorable Atwoli has said, that really for us as the current generation of politicians, we need to appreciate that there are people who paid very, very high prices for the freedom that we enjoy today. There would be no position of Secretary General for Edwin Sifuna to sit on, were it not for the sacrifices that people like Matiba have made, and the others, Mike Rubia, Charles Rubia, and all the others. So that we could have a country where there is freedom to choose your leaders and their political parties and to associate with whoever it is that you wanted to associate with. So it is our responsibility to use the freedoms that were earned out of that particular struggle constructively, in a manner that will push the country forward, and for us to reflect and have a moment where we as politicians ask ourselves whether really we are using the political freedoms that people fought for and paid very high prices for the right thing.
Indeed, and to realize the dream that Kenneth Matiba had for this country. As we speak, Edwin Sifuna, there is the footage on your screens, and this is the convoy. I believe it looks like it's in the city center right now. It was leaving Karen Hospital and heading to the Lee Funeral Home. That is the body of the late Kenneth Matiba, dead at the age of 85. Edwin Sifuna with me, saying, that our current crop of politicians perhaps need to learn from that. And indeed, Sifuna, Paul Mwite was talking about the Kenya that Matiba would have wanted to see, equal access to, important services, health, education. I'd like us to just tie his death and what he fought for to what we have in the country now. Do you think this is a country that Matiba has died happy, saying this is where he would have wanted us to be?
I think for me, all of those pioneers of multi-party democracy, many of them wanted to see a just society where every person, no matter where they came from, had an equal opportunity to be able to excel. And the fact of the matter, Yvonne, is that our union is not perfect as well. As of now, we have many of the problems that we talked about in the 90s. They still dog us. We have issues of corruption. Tribalism is still rife. And nobody should stop us from continuing with that discussion, that every discussion we have as a country is a discussion that is aimed at perfecting our union. We should not tire. I mean, one of the things that I tell people is that every generation has its struggle. And there are struggles that are handled or, fought over generations. And that it is a responsibility of subsequent generations. Not only to continue that struggle, but to realize that the preceding generations made work a lot lighter for us. And it is therefore easier for us to improve upon the achievements that they made. So that those who criticized, for instance, people like Matiba, when they were pushing for multiplicity of political parties, how do they judge us now that we have many political parties? Are the people who warned that probably multi-party democracy was not a good thing? Are they saying, looking at people like Sifuna and saying, we told you this is what was going to happen if we had a multiplicity of political parties? That is why I was saying that it is our responsibility as political leaders at the moment to realize that these things did not come easy. It did not come easy that I could sit here in a studio with you and just have a discussion about current affairs. That was not always the situation.
Yeah, and we're in an interesting space right now.
Absolutely.
As you said, every generation has its struggle. We have the handshake that took place between President Uhuru Kenyatta and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. And the country is still sort of on tenterhooks wondering what next, even as we seek proper systems within our electoral justice system, which is exactly what Kenneth Matiba was fighting for all those years back in 1997 when he said he wouldn't run because he wasn't sure, didn't trust the systems then.
Yes.
It's interesting that what Kenneth Matiba was saying in 97 is the same thing we're saying now. Where are we in your view with respect to this handshake? There's been a lot that's happened. It's been, well over 5 weeks. We're not hearing anything yet.
I mean, it is a big indictment on all of us as a country that we could still be talking about things that, were talked about 20 years ago. And as a country, we have not yet been able to find a solution to the problems of corruption, of tribalism, of divisive elections. The fact of the matter, Yvonne, is that we should not tire. And I want to laud the two leaders, Honorable Raila Odinga and Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, by first of all admitting that these problems have escalated and become worse under their watch, and that they want to end all these problems in their generation. If you remember the statement that was issued at the steps of Harambee House, these two leaders are acknowledging that they do not want to hand down these problems to the next generation, and that we have to give it a shot as a country to be able to have a discussion. At the end of the day, one of the messages that we have been passing to our supporters is that really, as a party, as ODM, and as supporters of Honorable Raila Odinga, there isn't really much in terms of options that was left. Having done all that we could, we had demonstrations every day. We have many of our supporters killed, many of our supporters brutalized and maimed. We have attempts in Parliament to be able to impose ourselves, to be heard. And we go to this juncture when Raila Odinga decided that we could explore these discussions with Uhuru Kenyatta for us to be able to put all these things on the table. Because what has been happening before is that Uhuru Kenyatta has been talking from one corner of the country and Raila Odinga is talking from another corner of the country. And having a conversation in those circumstances is difficult. So for the first time, and Yvonne, I want to assure you that for us as ODM, we are extremely content with the contents of the MOU that was signed, because for the first time, the things that we've been talking about as things that are ailing this country, when we were saying that corruption is a big problem, our counterparts for the longest time have been saying that it is not an issue.
So you believe that you've been able to get them onto the table with some of the issues that you were raising?
Absolutely.
All right, we will carry on with our conversation.